in this video, we want to focus on two things. We want to focus on creating a controller for the post, and we want to create a controller for the basically being able to get the user profiles. So first of all, the first thing we want to do is make sure we can have a user profile. So we want to say PHP artisan, and then we want to say make. Actually, we first want to cd into the backend directory. Then we want to say PHP artisan make controller. And then we want to call that inside the API controller. And we want to call this inside the user folder, and we want to call this user controller. And service where you can basically go in and create your own server, so you can host your own website in here. Vultr is a really good product because first of all, it allows you to easily set up your server by just going in and creating it and then accessing everything from server. It's cheap and easily affordable, and with the link in the description you can get Vultr for the first 30 days with $100 to use to test for free. And that allows you to try it out. So if you really want to try out Vultr, you should click in the link in the description and try it out, because you'll be able to easily set up a website on a decent price. Like cheapest one is $250, you can go up to something more like $120. So it also allows you to go in and use load balancers. So if you need anything like this, it's available. And there's also other things like, for example, storage units you can set up for your server. So if you want to use this, it can use with S3, so you can basically set it up as with Laravel. So I would highly recommend you to set it up with Vultr, and let me know what you think about using this service when you finish using it. And let me just go in here. And obviously we should just remove that one here. So let's go in and make this again and just remove the .php like this. Perfect. And then secondarily, we want to have a controller that would be called the post controller, and that will be inside here. For now, let's focus on the user controller. So in here we want to have one simple function, and that will be to get the profile. So we will just call this index for now, and we want to pass through an ID. And then what we just want to do here is we want to create a variable called user. Then we want to say user find ID, and then we want to just say if user. Then we just want to return response with JSON, and we can just go in here and call this data and then pass through. So inside here we just want to have user, that should be equal to user. And then we otherwise just want to go here on the end here and say status code 200. If not, we want to just return something to tell the application that we couldn't find a user. So in this case, what we just want to do here is we want to return success false, and then we want to say errors. And then we want to create another one in here, and that will be called the root error, and that will be could not find a user with that ID. So the reason why we put in the error message here is because Laravel has a really good directory to basically translate your application. This is not something you have to do. You can also on the front end application check if there is an error, but let's say that you want to translate all of these things and you want to customize the error message to each language, then it's easy to do that within the Laravel application and pass it through to your front-end application, rather than actually having to translate everything in the front-end application and then having to translate some of the error message and then also just to keep the structure. So that's actually why we are going to keep it like this. So with that said, we now have the opportunity to get a user information based on the ID, and that allows us to basically go in and create or find a user and get a profile page. However, we are gonna work on this later on, where we will use many-to-many relationships to be able to also add in the user's posts. Because when we grab the user profile, we also want to be able to go in and display all the posts, and we want to be able to display the followers and stuff like that. So this is a function we're going to work on later. So you can just put it like this here. So add in user post and add in followers. So that's something we're gonna do later on, so we can basically retrieve all of that in one go. Well, you can also go even further, but we're not at the moment gonna look at this in this application. You can go even further and use something like Pusher to use real-time data. Otherwise, you would have to call this function again, or refresh the page to call the function to basically retrieve the new information about followers and that stuff. So it won't be real time. You would have to refresh the page in order for it to work. Alright, so inside our post controller, we want to have a couple of functions. So in a scenario where you have like social media, so we want to have the ability to view a custom post and to get all posts. And we also want to have the opportunity to go in and say edit, and we want to have the opportunity to go actually call this update. Then we want to have the opportunity to delete it and to store it. And in here you want to call request. And in here, what we just want to do is just actually let's go in and make the post model. So let's go in and say PHP artisan make model, and let's call this model post with a migration. And then for now, let's just leave the migration and just set up the functions here to retrieve the data. That's basically what we're going to focus on in this video in particular. So what we want to do is we want to create a post class, and we want to say post, and we want to say all. However, I think we should add this inside the models directory. So if you just move it in here, update the namespace, and do like this. You can obviously always just put in like this here, but it's just easier to just go in and do like, not change it like this instead. So what we can do here is we can go in and return response with some JSON. And we can actually instead go in and just return it like this, and then say post, and change this to pro here. And beside that, we just want to have a status code of 200 here for now. we will make this more advanced later on, but for now we will just leave it like this. And to just get one post, we basically want to retrieve, in this case we want to retrieve the ID, because we're not gonna create slacks for the post. So we want to create a response with JSON and just have data like this, and just call post. And then we can even go in and create a statement here if we want to actually do it. We will later on also look at only being able to see posts that from users you follow, and that would be something we'll be looking at later. So all of these functions here are gonna be made more advanced, because what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to create basically a privacy mode on your post, just like with Facebook, for example, where you can go in and create a public, private, only for followers post. So what we want to go in here now and do is, so far in our database migrations files, we want to go in here and we want to go in and basically say table, and then we want to say string content, and we could go in and create a title, but I don't think there's a reason for this in this case. And then we want to go in and create a like we could go in actually and create multiple privacy modes with many-to-many relationships. So I think that's what we're actually gonna do there. So we want to just now just leave an integer to privacy mode, but later on we will create a many-to-many relationship. So actually we want to just leave this for now. And beside that, we also want to have ability to go in and basically add in some other things to identify the user, for example. So all of these things here we will be looking at in the next video. In the next video we will be looking at how we can basically know which user did post this post and what the privacy settings are. So, and then later on we're going to look at replying to a post and stuff like that, and we're going to be looking at putting in likes and all of that. But because this is more complicated than just creating one post, I'm right now just trying to give you the idea of how to do it, and then in the next video our focus is going to be creating the ability to view the user profile, and then we are going to be able to also go in and basically create the many-to-many relationships between the privacy mode and the user model. So that's what we're going to do in the next video. So what we can just leave off with now is by creating a controller, and we want to put this inside API, and then we put it inside post, and then we want to put it inside, we will just call this privacy controller, and then we want to create a model called inside models. So we can actually do like this and call this privacy. And what we're basically doing now is inside our privacy model we will just be calling a few settings to add in. So we can basically go in and load that privacy list and update it as we want. And that's all for this video. I will see you in the next video.